For a long time, I've thought that our redistricting process relies so much on politics that it can get absurd. You've seen some of the things, especially the I-85 corridor. You've seen some of that, how that works out. Instead, where does math play a role? How do we actually put math into work for us, even if it goes against our political leanings at the time? The Supreme Court decision, by the way, was opposite parties involved there, too. Maryland Democrats, it was Democrats, North Carolina's Republicans that were appealing. And the decisions and the ruling sent it back to the states, ending up in the state courts again instead of the legislature. Our next guest has done research on this. A lot of that's been published as well, too, on election forecasting. And he's a fellow of Informs, a leading international association for operations, research, and analytics professionals. Currently chairs the Informs National Science Foundation Liaison Committee. Sheldon Jacobson joins us now. Hi, Sheldon. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Are you in Illinois where you serve as a professor? Is that where you are today?
Yes, I'm in Illinois in my office here in the Computer Science Department at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
So, okay, as soon as you bring up math, some people's eyes glaze over. So why should we pay attention to analytics here and algorithms?
Well, the politicians have owned the gerrymandering process of redistricting for quite a while. The algorithms that are available, although people look at them and their eyes glaze over, as you say, because they don't understand it, don't realize that algorithms can be used to gerrymander as well as create districts that are reasonable in the interest of the voters. So they can be used for both good and for evil. The question is, how do you present it to the voters and to the people?
Yeah, 435 members of the House of Representatives, and supposedly all in equal districts. But that's the ideal. But really, you have to consider, well, the considerations have always fallen along two major lines. One is geographical, hopefully to have people who are in a like area, but also politically. How can this approach, your research, help us kind of get over the obstacles there of satisfying those two sometimes disparate interests?
Well, people talk a lot about fair districting, and the concept of fairness, people within the political science world can't even agree upon it.
No, right.
So fairness doesn't exist. It's a concept that just does not make any sense. North Carolina is a wonderful state because it's fairly split between the two parties, yet you have 10 Republican districts and 3 Democrat districts. How did that happen? Well, it was drawn with an eye to have the control of the legislature of the districts be by the Republicans. What algorithms do can provide a bright light on the process and point out when people are, in fact, gerrymandering for evil or creating districts which are in the interest of the people. So it provides, in some sense, an opportunity for people to see. It's like in basketball. I mean, North Carolina is a great college basketball state. When the selection committee gets together, they have something called a team sheet. What we advocate is something called a map sheet, whereby you would have all these metrics of so-called fairness, and people could actually then see what they're getting before it's actually voted upon by the legislators. That makes the legislators much more responsible to the people.
Okay, now one of the things, again, that most voters will complain about is that, if I'm in a district here but across the street's in another district, how can that be fair? Because we both live in the same community. This is the task that I think a lot of legislators face, and it doesn't matter. And like in Maryland, it was a Democrat-controlled legislature.
Correct.
So it depending on, and those can, even as much as they may gerrymander, they can flip, and they do historically.
Exactly.
So it really doesn't make sense to just rely on the political process because it can get upset. And then all of a sudden your rival is the dominant one, and to the victor goes the spoils. So how do we set this up so that we can take both the geographical interest of people in the community, and then also look at I don't know what I think, to me, that's the biggest factor.
Well, you make the best point, which is why are people literally across the street from each other in the same community doing the same things, shopping at the same stores? Why are they in different districts? And that is part of the political process by which you end up with gerrymandered districts. It's very possible that the legislature that decided to split that street had a political motive. We have to take the politics out of districting and literally put it in the hands of the people. And algorithms are, in fact, the most effective way to do that because they will shine this transparent, bright light on the process and enable people to see what they're getting. So that's why the census that's coming up is so critical, and the process using that information will be so important so that the people can be, in fact, empowered. That's why the Supreme Court decision was so critical. I agreed with both sides. Mm-hmm. Which is amazing that you can agree with both sides, but both sides made wonderful points. The people should be controlling the process, and algorithms can facilitate that. But, as a caveat, algorithms can actually hurt the process as well. They have to be used responsibly.
Yeah, now, it doesn't mean that you'll always end up, for example, if you do have a 50-50 split of parties, you also have a lot of people who are unaffiliated, who are not in the party process. So you can't, if you just go by party alone, then you're inherently unfair.
Well, Justice Kagan made the point that artificial intelligence could, in fact, make gerrymandering more extreme. I would argue that artificial intelligence can also make it much more fair and transparent for the process. So once again, it's about information and using the information. And if we let the politicians do it, ultimately we're going to end up in the same mess we're in now for the next 10 years. And we don't have to. That's the important thing. We don't have to.
Yeah, but you have, again, if it's entirely population-based, you're going to have, obviously, the urban centers. We're currently in a congressional district now. We have an election today.
That's right.
And we're in one that is, I understand, I think maybe the second largest, if not the largest geographical district in the country.
It's very, very spread out, yes.
Yes, in District 3 here. And such different issues from one end to the other, even though they share a lot of coastal issues, for example, there may be other issues that are quite different. So, man, it just seems so difficult, yet on one hand so easy on the other. If we just all apply X number of people voters need to be in this. Is it people or voters? It's people, actually, right?
Exactly. This is a people issue, but it's been made into a political issue.
Right.
And that's the schism which is causing the great angst, I think, in the country right now. Mm-hmm. Algorithms don't know the politics. It basically can provide what the people want and need, but we have to give them the opportunity to do so. And we've been researching this for over 10 years. I'm not a political scientist. I'm a computer scientist doing algorithms. We look at it through a lens of objectivity because that's all we're interested in, providing a transparent light.
Have you looked at North Carolina and Maryland and say, oh, here's what I would do?
We've looked at several maps. We've looked at North Carolina. We have looked also at Wisconsin, which has been in the press and concerning gerrymandering. And the 10-3 that you have right now, Republicans, Democrats, we can create maps that flip that. Literally, so that it would be 9-4. And you're saying, how is that possible? It's possible because of the way the districts have been designed right now. They've been designed to contribute to the Republican mission. Good or bad, that's the fact.
I'm sure if the Democrats win the North Carolina Senate and the House, they'll be calling. They'd like to have that 9-4. So,
they can have 9-4.
Yeah. So I imagine your phone will ring. How can people find out more about the work that you're doing?
Well, our website, certainly, we disseminate our papers. I'm at the University of Illinois. If you simply Google my name, Sheldon Jacobson, you'll see a lot of the work that we've done and what's out there. So it's easy to keep up with us. Plus, I'm also on Twitter, SHJ Analytics.
Okay. All right. So check it out. Sheldon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.